All right, so Jeremy,
Hey,
Jeremy
Bernadette.
from the LGBT Chamber of Commerce of Illinois. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's awesome to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Whoever would have thought that I'd be on screen with a best-selling author? I never could have imagined. Thanks for inviting me, and congratulations to you on the launch of a successful book.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And honestly, I invited you to join this show because, or this live stream event, because since the moment you joined the LGBT Chamber of Illinois, you've really had my back. You've offered opportunities to me. You've introduced me to folks. You've done a really exceptional job of being an advocate for the members of the chamber, and I personally feel like I've benefited from that. So I wanted to say thank you so much, and thank you so much for all you've done to support the book. I really am grateful for you, Jeremy.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. But it's all a lot easier when you have great members who have great products and services that people really want and really need. And so, thank you for being available and coming to the table whenever we call upon you. So, it's always been really great working with you and always knowing that you would be someone reliable that we could send our partners and our members to when they need great thought leadership and great support in implementing a lot of great D&I practices.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, one of the things I wrote about in this book was the importance of supplier diversity in the DEI conversation. And supplier diversity doesn't always live or usually doesn't live in the diversity, equity, inclusion department. If there even is a department, it usually lives in procurement. But I think it's incredibly important. I think there's a really big link there. So would you mind sharing your perspective on the importance of supplier diversity and how this all connects together?
Sure. I think, right now where we are really shows, I think, an example of the value of supplier diversity in your company. As you know, right now we're seeing so many corporate companies being committed externally to supporting D&I goals. Of course, you can do these things internally through having great hiring practices and making sure that you have great support systems in place to support the people who are producing all the great work that your company does. However, we know that there is such great opportunity that exists in the outside world, outside of the four walls where your company lives. And supplier diversity is one of the most impactful ways, I think, to be able to do that. For folks who might not have heard the phrase supplier diversity, Bernadette just hinted that it is a part of procurement or the people who buy the goods and services for a company, with the whole goal of making sure that corporations are spending their dollars with and providing programs and support to grow and develop diverse owned businesses. So minority, LGBT, women, veteran, and differently abled businesses as well. And so when you think about the outside community and corporations investing in these small businesses, we're now making it to where business owners from these communities are now able to hire folks from the communities where they live and work. They're now able to be the main sponsors of community initiatives where they live and work. And so we're really helping to make sure that outside of the four walls we live in, outside of our employees, we're really helping to add to a full ecosystem of diversity, of inclusion, and really helping to make sure that everyone is really getting access to opportunities to live in a world where they can be themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for explaining all that. I think that supplier diversity is sort of like a really great example of the E in DEI of equity, right? And when we talk about equity, a lot of people don't quite understand what that means, and there are various definitions. But what I really do believe is it's about giving folks, especially folks who've been marginalized because of oppression, because of systemic issues of racism or discrimination in whatever systems. It's about giving them increased access. It's about giving them a leg up and expanding their opportunity to do things like close the racial wealth gap and increase opportunities for LGBTQBEs business in enterprises like mine. So I think supplier diversity is an an under discussed part of DEI. It's really, again, a big part of the E, and it can do an amazing amount of great stuff to expand the access and expand the access of business owners like me. I mean, I have benefited from supplier diversity. I have benefited from, programs that create greater equity. So this stuff, it really is, it's personal to me in that way as well.
Yeah.
Now, Jeremy, I know that you've been in this space for a while. You support other LGBTBEs and other businesses in the work that you do. What in this DEI conversation is inspiring you? What do you think is going really well that you think, is giving you hope?
Yeah, so it was really sort of the piece that I was sort of just talking about. And it's really about, I think now we're seeing a greater commitment from corporations in terms of how they are committed externally in their communities where they live and work. And so I think traditionally, when corporations have always thought about D&I or DEI, it's always come from the internal perspective of how do we make sure employees are included or that we're really just recruiting people. I think that inclusion piece that came a little bit later, but it really started off, I think, with the recruitment piece, and then I think evolved a little bit to the inclusion part. And I think now, while many companies were already doing some great things externally, I think what we've seen since the pandemic and with the resurgence of a focus of recognizing that Black Lives Matter, I think that we're seeing a lot more companies make commitments to want to be more involved into how local communities are supported, how their dollars are invested into, like here in Chicago, how dollars are invested into the South and West Side communities, and really thinking about how their external decisions, whether it's an impact on policy, an impact on investments, an impact on community partnerships, and how all of these can be really great tools to really helping to create better communities where we live. And so I think that's what I'm most excited about. But something that you said a moment ago about supplier diversity still is sort of ringing in my head. I think the great thing about supplier diversity for corporations is, of course, yes, you get to work with awesome, talented, diverse business owners like Bernadette, but you also get people who are helping you to reduce your costs. You're helping to create competition amongst our business community. So you're not just doing charity work. You're not just saying, hey, here's a LGBT-owned business who they're just LGBT owned, and we're just going to do this with them because they do work. These are qualified businesses who have great infrastructure, great services, great products, and they happen to be from diverse communities that can support your bottom line as well. And so it's a win-win for these companies also.
Awesome. That's so well said, Jeremy. I couldn't agree more. I look for all the opportunities for win-wins and especially win-win-wins because it also can improve the customer experience. And I think that that's also often an overlooked conversation. Thank you so much for being here with me, Jeremy.